What is up, everybody? Sven Diesel here. We're going to be tying up the zero gravity balance leech. With most of my patterns, when a new material or a new product becomes available, I always love to incorporate it into existing effective patterns I know work, and that's what we're going to do here today. We've got a Moonlit. This is a ML058. This is a jig style hook, and what we're going to be doing is making it a balanced leech. So we've got our Semperfli. This is a 12-aught wax thread, and we're going to go ahead and get a nice thread base here, started down the shank of the hook, working our way towards the bend. And you can either rip this tag end off or simply cut it out. And then as I work my way back up towards the eye bend, I'm just going to do some nice palmering wraps. And now with the balance leech, I like to use the embroidery pins. This is number 17. And the critical part is making sure it's water balanced. So the way I found the general rule is basically a tungsten bead of similar size between the bend of the eye and the end of the tungsten bead. So I'll go ahead and trim this pin, and I'm going to leave this pin about the whole length of the shank, simply because I'm going to be using a nice marabou tail, and I don't think it's going to affect it, and I don't need to worry about stepping it up or down. So I'm going to get that placement so that I got a bead in between the end of the bead and the bend there, and then I'll work my thread back, making sure to be very careful of the snipped end of the embroidery pin. And I usually go up and down and then come up behind the eye, and then I go back down to the bend. So I've gone over this embroidery pin now for the third time with some nice thread wraps, and then I'll glue it at this point. And just put a little bit of I prefer the brush so I don't get too much on there. I'll just brush each side, kind of working it into that thread, laying it down real nice. And then I'll go back up and down one more time, just laying down some extra thread. This also helps so that it doesn't get as sticky on your fingers. Sometimes, you can lay down enough thread that you're not even going to have to worry about it drying because you're covering it and that's being absorbed into the thread. Now we're going to end right here, and this is the zero gravity dubbing. This is the color brown. It's made by Snake River Fly, and they make it in-house. And so there is a little bit of variance in the colors I've seen. I bought two of these brown ones, and one had a little bit of gold flash and one had a little bit of red flash, and I like them equally. So I'm just going to pull out. As you can see, it's marabou fibers with a little bit of flash. And I just pulled out a nice little chunk here. I'm kind of working out some of these butt ends I don't like. And I'm just going to simply trim the tip here and tie it in. And there is our tail. That was so easy. There's no stems in there. And basically we've got flash and marabou as our tail. It's tapered. And it doesn't get much easier than that. Let's take a look at that. Oh, look at that. It's almost too easy. So right there, that tail's about maybe 2 lengths the shank of the hook, and probably 1.5 length of from the bead to the tail. So we're going to form a dubbing loop, and all I'm going to do is pull out a nice little clump of this zero gravity dubbing, the same color, and we'll just pull it out. And what I'm going to do is just kind of spread these out, making sure not to get too big of a mess. That's the only downside I found of this dubbing, is you get marabou fibers everywhere. So I'm just going to lay that in my dubbing loop, put a little tension on it, and spread it out a little bit more. And then I'll go ahead and start spinning that up. And we're just going to wrap this up the shank of the hook. And that is going to be our body, and that is going to be our fly. So we are almost done, actually. So basically, as I'm wrapping this around, I'm going to make sure to preen these fibers back to assist in that taper. And if you get a little bit of a thicker section, you can see right here, it's a little bit thick. I space out my wraps a little bit more, and right here it's a little bit thinner, so I get those wraps touching. So that way we've got a nice even body. And then right here around the head, I really kind of try and cinch it in. Oh, it slipped off there. So I'll just grab it with my hand, do another wrap, and then we'll go ahead and secure that with our thread and do a nice little thread base down there, making sure our bead's positioned how we like it. Do some more wraps front and behind. You probably could use a heavier thread than I'm using, but I just simply have my 12-aught out. I'd probably use an 8-aught as well. And we'll snip out our dubbing loop and check out our head, maybe give a little bit more of a collar here just to kind of secure everything in place. And then we'll go ahead and do a single whip finish. You could do a double, but I'm going to secure this thread wraps here with a little bit of UV resin. So we'll go ahead and snip out our thread, come up, kind of brush it out a little bit, get all those clumps out. You could brush it as you go, but you know, I fish so many of these that I just hurry and give it a quick brush, and then I fish it. It's simply as effective. It catches fish. It pierces lips. Look at that nice taper. When that gets wet, that is just going to look ideal. Man, really quick, really easy. Let's go ahead and put a little bit of resin on our thread here up towards the the bead. If you get a little bit on the marabou or the zero gravity dubbing, or a little bit on the bead, that's okay. But try to avoid that. Try to focus all the resin on the actual thread. Then we'll go ahead and cure that up. And man, look at that. I don't know what flash is in this, but look at that pop. Dang, that is awesome. That's just beautiful. So super quick, super easy, effective fly. Comes in a bunch of colors, and this is the balanced version. You can tie it up on a nymph style hook. You could tie it up without a bead. That options are endless, but you can see that just was super easy. A nice taper. It's going to be nice and flowy. It's going to be nice to fish, and it's going to pierce some lips. So thanks for watching, and I hope you get out and tie some of these and get a chance to fish them.